Hey friends, so now if Databricks sounds confusing for you, don't worry about it because now I'm gonna show you a story that's gonna explain everything about Databricks and why it became so important for many companies and especially for modern data teams. As usual, I will be explaining everything using animated sketches. So now it is story time. Let's go.
Let's go!
Now, everything started like this. Your company has data, sales, transactions, logs, events, and you wanted to process it for analytics and engineering tasks. So you write some code like SQL, Python, Java, and you run it on one single machine. It could be your laptop or a server that's gonna process that data and gives you back the results. So at the start, this setup works perfectly and everyone was happy until something happened around 2007. The company started to generate big data, more users, transactions, more history, new unstructured data like images, videos, PDFs. So we went from few gigabytes to terabytes. And now if we try to fit all this big data in one single poor machine, it's gonna start to struggle. So everything gonna start feeling very slow until you end up that the machine is not able to return anything back. And now our first instinct, of course, obvious. We're gonna go and buy some bigger machine, more RAMs, faster CPU, bigger disks. And yes, of course, this works for a while until you hit the next wall. Because no matter how powerful it becomes, it's still one machine. If it crashes, then everything gonna stop. And that's the moment where everyone in the industry understood something. We cannot use one single machine in order to analyze big data. And this is where everything started to change. Alright, now the solution for this was Hadoop. It is an idea that came actually from Google. So the idea is very simple. Instead of using one single machine to process the entire big data, let's go and get multiple machines that work together. So each one of them has its own CPU and storage. And then we go and split our data between those machines. That's why we call it a distributed system. Now after that, each machine can process its own piece of data in parallel. And at the end, the result gonna be collected from multiple machines and combined into final results. So the basic idea is very simple: divide and conquer, and the whole process we call it MapReduce. So with this setup, the companies were able to process massive amount of data, terabytes and even petabytes. And of course, it was really easy to scale. If you need more power, you just go and add more machine to the setup. And of course, the system was more robust. So if one of the machines fails, the system continues because others takes over the work. So my friends, in companies, we started using Hadoop in order to work with big data. But yeah, this didn't solve everything because there was one big issue. Each machine was actually writing and reading the data from disks. And my friends, disks are really slow. So yes, with Hadoop, we have solved the scaling issue so we can process big data, but it was slow. Slow computer. It was not fast, and of course we need speed in order to do our job. So now the solution for this was around 2009. Researchers at UC Berkeley, they started an open source project called Apache Spark. The goal was very simple: we want to speed up Hadoop. So how this works? The main idea was exactly the same. We will go and distribute the data between multiple machines, but they changed here one critical thing. Instead of reading and writing to disk, Spark gonna keep the data in the memory whenever it's possible. So it can process the data in the memory, and this is way faster than using disk. And after that, same thing gonna happen. The results gonna be collected and combined into final results. With this setup, we have all the advantages of the Hadoop, so we can easily scale. It is fault tolerance, and as well, it is very fast, so we have speed. And that's why, my friends, Spark became quickly in companies as the dominating big data processing engine that everyone uses. I know, my friends, this sounds like an happy end, but sorry, we still have a problem, and this time it was not the technology itself, it was who was able to use it. Now, Spark was only for big data experts that were able to develop using Scala and Java. But now at the same time, something parallelly was happening. The data science was exploding, the university were teaching Python, and the Python libraries like Pandas, NumPy, Scikit-learn were used like crazy everywhere. So the data scientists prefer preferred to use only Python to do their work, and there were a gap between those two worlds. So we have big data engineers that uses Spark, and we have the data scientists were using Python. And exactly for this reason, the PySpark was introduced to let the Python users like the data scientists work with the Spark environment, and my friends, this worked like magic. So with this, anyone who knows Python is now welcome to use Spark, not only the big data engineers, but as well our data scientists, because PySpark just looks like pandas with the data frames and the simple operators. But the big difference, of course, everything gonna be processed using big data distributed engine, the Spark. So everything sounds right. You have a very fast big data engine, and as well you are using an easy language like Python to work with it. But this came with a cost. If you start building real projects, the operational side was a real nightmare. You have to go and manage the infrastructure, configure the clusters, handle the scaling, the security, the failures. So the projects were really slow before I could start even building anything. Because me as a data engineer, I just want to build the pipelines and build the project, not babysit the clusters. So my friends, everything was really scattered: the storage, the notebooks, the scheduling, the monitoring, and at the same time the companies were moving from the on-prem to the cloud, which added even more complexity. We have to build the whole setup in the cloud. So my friends, to be honest, running Spark in real projects is not fun at all.
It's not right. I don't like it.
And now, because of all those issues, in 2013, the original creators of Apache Spark started thinking about a bigger idea. How about we build a platform and we call it, for example, Databricks, where a dedicated team gonna handle all the complex infrastructure and the nightmare that comes with it completely behind the scenes. So they're gonna manage the clusters, they're gonna connect everything to the cloud storage, integrating the notebooks, configuring the environment, and putting everything into one unified platform. And we, the customers, the data teams, can finally focus on what actually matters: building our data pipelines, running the analysis, delivering all the projects without having us to worry about the infrastructure complexity. So they founded Databricks with the one main idea: a layer that hides the complexity and a platform that provides managed Spark, notebooks, and cluster management all in one place. And that was, my friends, huge for many companies. And as well, I was really happy about it because now I can deliver projects faster and it increased the data team's productivity. I know that you are waiting for the issues and you know already this is not the happy end. Now, my friends, what happens is that we big data engineers, we start building massive data lakes because everything was cheap. So we were really greedy and we start like bringing anything that we can touch to our data lake, but without any structure and control. If schema changes, we will never notice that because they are files, and we had no idea about the context of the data or the data quality. It was miserable, and over the times those lakes became messy data swamps that nobody fully trusted. But it was cheap and all data were available there. So that was one issue, but we had another bigger issue. On the other side, we had as well people that work with the data. They are the data analysts, the BI and data warehouse developers. They were living for a long time in their own world, the world of the SQL and the structured data. And of course, they start building modern things like the cloud warehouse using the Snowflake. And each time we big data engineers, we start inviting them to this data lake, they start like complaining about, yeah, I need now to learn coding using Python. The raw data inside the data lakes are really bad. Everything is too complex and not structured like I'm used to do. And there is no SQL, so I really need SQL to work here. But let's be honest, sometimes they needed data from the data lake, and what happens at that? We data engineers, we start like extracting things from the lake and moving the data to their systems in their warehouses. So again, by looking to this, of course, the company is gonna suffer more because now we have two worlds in order to work with the data. We have more pipelines between systems and everything getting like more costly and chaotic. So that was a big issue for Databricks because from one side, the data engineers and the data scientists are building data lakes, and as well their platform can only used by people who can write scripts. So they are missing a huge audience that's like to work with only SQL. That's why they made an internal team and start discussing this data warehouse versus data lake. And the idea was very simple. How about to merge the data warehouse and the data lake in one data management system? And they called it the Delta Lake. The official name for this is the Data Lake House. It didn't replace the data lake, it upgraded it by adding including transactions, schema enforcement, and versioning, which made the data structured and as well more reliable. Not only that, the clusters and the machines could be used as SQL warehouses, where the data analyst finally they can use SQL in order to work with the data. And that was, my friends, a game changer for my project as well, because now finally I can invite all the data analysts, the BI data warehouse developers to join me in my project and start working together in one platform using one data layer. So that means we don't have anymore to move the data from one system to another. We all can collaborate together in the same projects using the same data, but of course for different use cases. And my friends, this is exactly the moment where Databricks stopped being a big data tool and managed Spark, and they became a true data platform. This is, from my point of view, the biggest evolution that happens really to Databricks. Now, for the next phases of the evolution, I don't want to be so dramatic about it. The thing is, Databricks became like standards for many companies, especially in big companies like the one I worked in, Mercedes-Benz. Now, the challenge is no longer a technical one, so it's not anymore about the speed, how to process the data. Everything was actually fine. The challenge was the teams, the regions, the regulations, the security requirements, because we cannot go and just give access to the data for everyone in the companies. We have to manage the permissions and we have to audit actually everything. If you see numbers in the dashboards, we have to tell what is the lineage of the data. So the problem was no longer about the performance, it was about the governance. So that was in big companies a real pain. If you start a data project, you have really to deal with all those stuff. That's why Databricks reacted and they built a layer on top of the data layer and they called it the Unity Catalog. So they centralized the catalogs, the schemas, the tables, the permissions, the lineage into one layer. Unity Catalog was amazing for auditors and governance team to review the accesses and as well to apply rules and compliance. And as well for us at data teams, it was easy for us to share data and as well to manage the permissions on our assets. So Unity Catalogs made Databricks even more attractive for enterprises. I think you already know what I'm gonna say. There is another shift and this is gonna be the last one. The industry shifted again, and this time because of the AI. Now, as you know, the companies want to utilize AI everywhere, even in the data platforms. Like for example, if you look at this picture, you can see only the data expert actually interacting with the system. So the analysts, the engineers, the scientists, only those people worked with the data directly. But in companies, we have as well a huge audience of people that actually don't have a chance to do that, like managers, project leads, the business experts. If they have like an ad hoc questions, they have always to ask some data experts in order to help them and interact with the system. So actually they don't interact directly with platform like the Databricks. So now for those scenarios, what we can do, we can utilize the large language model LLMs and build some interface so that the business users can use prompts in order to talk to the data. And this means, my friends, you have now to bring AI engineers in order to build separate system outside of Databricks to build AI systems. So again, we have like two worlds, the data world and the AI world. That's why Databricks reacted. So they extended the platform with the Mosaic AI so that you can train models, integrate LLMs, build intelligence agents all together with the data that you have already in Databricks. So with this, my friends, Databricks evolves again. So they moved from only data platform into data and AI platform. So my friends, this is what Databricks is today, and of course technology will keep evolving and data teams will need even more tools to become more efficient. By looking to this, you can understand why Databricks is now so powerful compared to all other platforms. We moved from one simple machine that processes data to fully intelligent system. So with this platform, everyone can work together. The data engineers are building the pipelines, the data analysts are exploring the data and answering critical business questions, the data scientists are training from the scratch the models, and the AI engineers are building the AI systems directly where the data lives. And as well, you have the auditors, the governance teams ensuring compliance, and even the business users are able to talk to the data by just using simple prompts. And as well, you can use the language that you want, so not only Python and PySpark, but as well you can only live with SQL inside this platform. And of course, everything is powered by distributed Spark engine that can process massive amount of data with the speed. So now, my friends, I can tell you, I am an old guy.
I am not old. You are old.
So I have experienced most of those spaces, and I built one of the largest data lake houses at Mercedes-Benz, where we connected over 40 analytical projects using one single platform, the Databricks. And now I have only one goal: to share everything that I know about this platform and the experience that I gained through all those projects. And by the way, this comes maybe a little bit late, but actually this is not sponsored by Databricks or something. I'm just explaining for you the story and how I went through the different phases in my projects. So my friends, if you want to learn Databricks and you want to learn it from me using those animated sketches, then make sure to follow me so that you don't miss anything. So if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Bye.